So that was a quick 30 seconds. So there we go. And we are live on YouTube, 3 minutes in, and I am texting everyone in the chat. Good morning. So, hey, Michelle.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, well, you already know because I called you.
that was a rhetorical. How are you doing?
I know. It was definitely a Tuesday of a Tuesday today.
Oh yeah, my week has not been fun either.
Anyway, do you have your cool mug? I want to see your mug.
Oh yeah, I made this for my Etsy shop because I wanted to make sure the colors were appropriate. So it's all the color codes with the colors I wanted to use.
Codes.
Yeah, all the hex codes for it.
Oh, and you have tea this morning.
I do. I have, what is it? It's lavender tea with ginger.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's delicious. Helps my cough.
All right. Everyone joining us for the live stream this morning, please let us know in the chat what you're drinking, what your beverage of choice is. We know some of you, it's like later in the night. So maybe you, it's wine o'clock where you live, but it's both Michelle and I are East Coast. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning and people might frown on us unless it was just Bailey's in our coffee or something.
I mean, might be good considering the day.
It's definitely 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, everyone. Well, I'm Elizabeth Ann West with Future Fiction Academy, and this is also Michelle.
Hello, Michelle, staff member. Academy. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, and this series on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you know, I love you all, and I've read the feedback, and I understand that sometimes I go a little too fast or just a little too advanced. So Michelle has been very kind enough to say, hey, you know, I'm just starting my journey with writing. With AI, and I'd like to do kind of a series so that I can share what I'm doing, so people who are just coming in can understand, like, this is where you start and you're not the only one. So, and for those of you who don't know, Michelle is a very accomplished artist and writer in other formats and things like that. You were studying video games at one point, I believe.
I have a degree in game audio production and another degree in criminal justice, and
you just collect them all, huh?
I worked in forensics for 6 years, so that degree was actually used. The game audio, unfortunately, never was because the industry is very hard to break into, especially as a woman.
Well, now you can use the game audio all you want, right? With
exactly.
YouTube and AI audiobooks and things like that. So
exactly. A lot of it carries over, definitely.
Yeah. I have a degree in political science leadership of all things, so I can lead everybody on this, but that's...
And you do very well doing it, see? So it comes to you.
And I have a minor in English Lit, so I used to take apart books for fun. Anyway, I won't keep jibber jabbering. I will turn it over to Michelle, who's going to control this. Let me check. I'm going to be playing producer today, and I'm going to check the chat and hold up. Oh my gosh, Michelle, people are here. We have Adam, good morning. Death by Diva, good morning. Stacy, good morning. Cool Gamer, Dion, Jude, Becca. Good morning to all of you. Death by Diva, Jude, she wants to tell you that she likes your avatar, just so you know. Oh, Becca, cappuccino, same, cappuccino. We have decaf coffee, but now Jude wants lavender tea.
I mean, you're welcome to drive down here if you want some. I have plenty of extra.
we also have Ashling Elizabeth in the house, so we know that's the UK crowd is here. Nice. And Ikello, our wonderful Ikello Herod, who I should just give the link to, and then you could just hop on, brother. And Carrie is here this morning too, so, or it says afternoon, so great, fantastic.
No pressure. A lot of people for my first live.
No, they're all here to support you. They love you. It's all good. It's all good.
I've worked with most of them already, so that's fun. Like, it's a lot of familiar faces.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute and let me know when. Just tell me, like, hey, I want to share my screen. Change the screens, and I'll do it for you.
Okay. So first, I'm gonna cough. Excuse me.
Oh dear.
I apologize. My allergies are really bad, and I have some of this planned, but some were just kind of shoot off the hip. It's been an interesting week. My puppy got sick, so this is actually a good demonstration of how AI can help you if you're on a deadline and you haven't exactly had the time to plan out, because we're going to kind of fly off the seat of our pants for a little bit just because of the issues with my puppy. And he's doing fine, but just he's still on watch and that kind of thing. So if you see me sprint away, he might be having an issue and I have to go handle it, and then Elizabeth will jump in. So just so you guys are aware. But with that said, we're going to get started. We're just today I figured we're going to start at least a short story in the mystery genre, because that's a genre I really am interested in. I've never really had a chance to write in. I've been writing for quite a while, as Elizabeth said. I haven't really published anything yet in fiction because I just never really had the confidence to do it, and I have a few health issues that make it really difficult to actually plan and complete things. So AI, this process I use actually helps me. I kind of consider it like ADA accommodation because it actually makes it to where I can actually perform at the level as other writers, even with the disabilities I have. So I find this very huge for me. It's very important for me. Because of this, I'm actually on track to publish my first novel when I've been writing for like 30 years. This is the first time I'm going to finish a novel, and I'm going to get emotional now. But it's the first time I've ever been able to because of the AI. So excuse the emotion, but it's a very important step in my life. So
You're not the
with
only one. You're not the only one. Let me see if the chat, because oh yeah, people are like, everyone's here. Oh, they got congrats.
thank you.
And someone's letting me know that yesterday I was talking about whether it would rain hard in Hertfordshire in yesterday's live, and Jude is in Hertfordshire, and it is raining in biblical proportions this week. See, I knew it wouldn't have a snowstorm in November. I mean, it's just not very common. So
yeah, that's interesting.
right,
We're supposed to have our first snow in February, apparently.
Everyone's rooting for you, and Ikello just said preach. So, and I would say the same thing. I've had autoimmune disorder since I was 15 years old. So my entire adulthood has been defined by how do I be a full functioning adult with only about 60 to 7% functionality. So,
yeah. And it's a challenge at times. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And now with AI, it makes the path a lot easier. There's still a lot you have to work with, of course, with AI. It doesn't do it all for you. We're not at that stage, but it does make it to where you can actually find ways to function, which for me is huge.
So today, you are not going to be using Rexy. You're going to be using tools like the Playground and ChatGPT, and you want to go ahead and show them the Notion page where they can find the notes that's linked to in the YouTube description.
Let me go ahead and grab that real quick. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go into YouTube and put. This is the link to my Notion page. It has some things, like I said, for most of it, we're going to flap the seat of our pants, but this is kind of the beginning of the planning, so we're good.
It's already in the Notion. It's already in the YouTube description. I was just trying to segue here. I'll go ahead and add it to the stage and put that there. So there you go.
Sounds good.
So now you're sharing your screen so they can see the Notion page. So just so that they can see the notes.
Sounds good. So like I said, today we're going to be starting on a short story. I normally start in Playground AI, and I kind of do my building. I like doing that because with my system prompt, I like to be able to put it in there and then just work off of it. It's a little bit harder for me in ChatGPT because sometimes it kind of forgets who it is type thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start in Playground AI. Now, for Playground AI, I come into the chats.
You mean OpenAI Playground, right? Because Playground AI is the awesome. I get confused too, but Playground AI does the images, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I haven't got to play with that much, but yeah, I have that in my mind right now because it's on my back burner to check out.
I know, because you're all about the images.
I'm sorry, anyone who's here that builds the LLMs, please change your naming conventions because it gets very confusing.
Right?
It's very confusing for someone like me with short-term memory problems to remember which is which. But I digress. So what we're going to do is if you have a story idea already, a short story idea that you're wanting to plan out, you're welcome to do it this way. You would just skip to step 2 of my notes. We're going to start from very scratch. We're going to pretend I'm here and I want to write a short story in the mystery genre, but I'm not really sure what I want to write, which, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have run into that issue before. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're just going to start with a system prompt. Excuse me. Now, I went ahead and I already kind of gave you guys a system prompt to play with. This one works pretty well for me. This is a mesh of some things I've seen Elizabeth do and just some things I wanted to add in. So I found a very big help with FFA. As I said, I'm a staff member there. It's a very good group. Everyone shares, everyone works together. So this prompt I was able to write with the assistance of watching Elizabeth and Steph and Stacy and Leland do this and just kind of modify it for what I want. So for me, this is another reason why FFA is really big, is because we're all sharing and we're all willing to help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my prompt and I'm just going to put it in here. So the system prompt says, you are a writing assistant who is an expert in every element of story writing, craft, plotting, and any other task an author should help with. You provide detailed and useful information to allow the writer to smoothly complete each step of the novel writing process. Now, because we're writing a short story, I'm just going to change this short story. So the short story writing process, just so it doesn't give us enough information for a novel when I want to write something just short and more concise.
I love that.
Thank you. And so what I do here, once I have this in, I'm going to put in my user message, which, again, I'm just going to copy and paste because I already worked on it. So this one, it just, if you don't have any ideas, if you have an idea to begin with, but you're not sure what you want to do, this one says, please generate 3 short story ideas in the, and then in the, I call them swirly brackets, like the swirly brackets says genre. Now, whenever you see the swirly brackets in a prompt like this, at least for me, that's so I remember to go in and put in the genre. So I can recycle this and use it for any genre I want. I can put mystery in there. I can put horror in there. For me, it just saves time being able to just copy this and then change what I want. So we're going to go ahead and put in our genre there. I'm going to go ahead and copy this into Playground, and we'll just change it in there. So in OpenAI Playground. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this in the user prompt.
You know what?
And
I
in here,
think we should just nickname this thing Opie.
Opie, there you go.
Yeah, this is Opie, everyone. OpenAI Playground is Opie. Any objections in the chat?
Now I'm going to have the Andy Griffith song playing in my head every time we say that. Remember the little whistling at the beginning of that?
And real fast, those squirrely brackets, we use those in Rexy as well, right? Because those are where the little boxes will automatically fill it in for you. So I know you're copying and pasting this morning. That's where we all started. But that's one of the things that the FFA is like, if you don't want to copy and paste, that's literally why we built Rexy, because we all hate copying and pasting.
Exactly. And most of my process is done in Rexy, but I want to kind of show something outside of it for those who don't have Rexy and are just getting familiar with AI, so they could get to a level where they're comfortable coming to the FFA and using Rexy, because we have a great group. With FFA now, we have beginner courses for people who are just coming in, intermediate courses, advanced courses. So no matter what level you are, you're going to find like-minded people and assistants in FFA. So again, that's really huge. At least for me, that was a big part of getting the confidence to actually start writing.
I love that too, because it's so hard out there. There's so many anti-AIs, and we don't have time for those people right now.
And the other thing is, it's a lot of times when you're out there, everyone's like, no, my idea, my thing, no, mine. And so you don't really get the chance to learn from people, because a lot of people are afraid to share their ideas because you might take them, because you might work off what they've done. FFA is not like that. We're all just one group of people trying to build each other up and make each other succeed. So in here in genre, the little swirly back brackets, those just signal me in my brain to know, fill this in. Tell it what you want. So I'm going to type in mystery. I'm going to type it right first, though. I can't spell today. Nope. There we go.
Okay. I never can either, but only when I'm on camera. Like the second I get on camera, all ability to spell is gone.
Yeah, my fingers are like, nope, not doing this.
Yeah. You're doing great, by the way. So just keep breathing. You're doing great.
I'm just the allergies is the cough. So if you hear me gasping, I might grab my inhaler. So, okay, so now for this, I put a little thing in there involving story ideas. If you have story ideas you want to incorporate, you would put it there. If not, you can just delete this out and just not put any story ideas. For me, I'm just going to have some fun. We're going to put involving, let's see, an ancient relic and a mummy.
Michelle, I'm so sorry to interrupt you again. My old eyes, I can't really see very well, and I know you're putting some cool things in your prompt. Do you mind zooming in on that one too for me?
Of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So let me actually backtrack just in case anyone else wasn't able to see that. Thank you for telling me, Elizabeth. Sometimes I forget because I always look at things very small.
I was live for weeks with my screen small until somebody told me in the comments. So, I mean,
oh no,
I have made all of these mistakes myself.
Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit in case you weren't able to see, right here is where we had the genre and the swirly background, so we changed that to mystery. I have this little thing right here involving story ideas. If you have story ideas you want to put in, that's where you put it. If you don't, you would just delete everything after this comma right here and just ask it to use the creativity to come up with. We're just going to have some fun today, and I want to do a mystery. So we're going to put involving an ancient relic and a mummy, because that seems like a fun idea, kind of like some mystery around this ancient relic, trying to stop the mummy. As long as we don't get Brendan Fraser in it, I think we're safe. And then, so the prompt says, please generate 3 story ideas in the mystery genre involving an ancient... Oh, I should type the word relic, shouldn't I? Involving an ancient relic and a mummy. Use your creativity to come up with a unique concept for each story, including interesting characters and settings. The possibilities are endless, so feel free to explore any aspect of the... And I put the genre in here. I put it in again here just because it helps it kind of keep on track, and it kind of reiterates this is a genre, don't go off the rails. And 90% of the time that works, sometimes it doesn't, but with AI, sometimes you just have to remind it, I've found. So explore any aspect of the mystery genre that interests you and develop a story idea based on your imagination. And even though I know it doesn't really have an imagination or anything like that, I feel like this really helps because it kind of tells it, have fun, go with it. So when I wanted to just go wild, I'll put something like this in. So that way when I specify, do it this way, it kind of knows the difference between using your imagination and doing it the way I want. So sometimes it actually helps me get the results better on track because it knows the difference between have fun and do it my way.
Yeah, I think because of the way that the LLM actually works, where it's a vector field inside of there, whatever token, whatever words you stick in there, which are actually tokens inside of its vector field, that informs the mathematical calculations that it's making. So I like to think of it almost as like a prism or a filter that I've put it through. So when you put tokens in there that are like wild and zany, it understands, okay, well, let me go look in the vector field for what kind of concepts are around those words. And then it allows it to understand, okay, I want this, not serious, because everything is a distance calculation between the different vectors, which have an address inside that galaxy of stars, basically. And distance from other tokens matters in the calculations it makes.
Exactly. You always make it sound so much smarter than I can. So I appreciate that. I love hearing you explain things.
No. You know what? There's people who work on this full time with degrees in this, and they can't explain it to a layperson either. So this is all brand new technology, but it's a great segue into your hyperparameters on the right hand side.
It is, yes. And actually, what I'm going to do real quick. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just going to copy this because I don't remember if I change this, if it wipes it out. And I want to actually put this on 16K just because as it's generating, as I'm adding more stuff, I want it to be able to actually give me enough information.
You want the context window, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So the 16K is how much the context window is. It still outputs a set amount, but it changes how much you could actually put into it for it to remember. Okay, and so the temperature, because I'm asking for a story idea, I'm going to play with this a little bit. If you put in 1.8 here in the temperature, and then where is my thing? Presence penalty, I'm going to put 0.6. Actually, I'm going to change. Top
no,
P.
I made this mistake yesterday myself. It's the top P that has to come down to 0.6 if you're trying to make OpenAI right like Claude.
I'm thinking of Rexy, and Rexy top P is actually at the bottom.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit different. Don't forget about your maximum length too. Otherwise, you're going to get hamstrung.
Exactly, yeah. So the temperature 1.8 and the top P of the ChatGPT makes it write a little bit more like Claude. So because I'm asking it to do something creative and use its imagination, I want it to write as close to like a creative Claude as it can. So this is the best way I've found to do it without actually using Claude, because I don't have the API and I don't like jumping into Claude Chat and jumping back and forth. I try like streamline where I'm doing everything. So now, as Elizabeth was saying, the maximum length, we're going to want to change this, because this is telling us how much it's going to give us back out. So this is limiting it to 256 tokens, which is not going to give me enough for 3 story ideas. So I want to crank this up. I think the max for this is, I'm going to pump it up to just 6,000, because sometimes it'll give me like more if I go up higher, even though I know it's not going to give me 6,000. If I put 6,000, I get a little bit higher number than if I put just like 1,000.
So that slider actually means a little bit, if you hover over it real fast.
Yeah.
Because even Steph and I go back and forth on this, because the way they built this is so backwards. I love them. God love them. But Opie is just so backwards from the way any human thinks. So if you read it, it says the maximum number of tokens to generate shared between the prompt and completion. The exact limit varies by model. So what this actually means is that everything in your system and your user plus this number has to equal less than 16,000, which is the total context window. So it really messes with your head. Whereas this gets longer, you actually have to bump that maximum length backwards and make it smaller. But you are right that there is an actual max limit of output for one response with 16K, which is only 2,048 tokens, about 1,500 words. None of this works the way our brains work. Just so if that just messed with everybody's head, it messes with ours too. Like it's totally backwards.
Yeah, I was thinking that was the max context window, how much it was going to shoot back at me, the output.
And that's exactly right. Like people think like, okay, that's the max output. It is the max output if it is less than the actual max output of the model, which so you just have to memorize these things. Like 16K can only spit out 2,048 tokens. So if you only want like 400 tokens back, you put it at 400 tokens, it'll only write you back to 400 tokens. But as you get longer, that number, the 6,000, has to be equal to the total context window, 16,000, minus what's already in the screen, minus whatever the response back is. Otherwise, it'll say error, you're outside the context window. And the answer is all you have to do is bump that to the left.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing whenever I got that error, but I didn't understand why it wasn't working with the context window output. So that's actually really good. Thank you.
Because it was stupidly made. That's why.
So then the ideal number to start out, would it be the 2046?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
The ideal number for this to get story ideas, would it be the 2046, or would we still bump it up?
2048 is the max it can put out in one response, but actually you want it higher, and here's why. If you have it higher, because you have the context window. This is such like advanced AI stuff. If you have it higher because you have the context window, it'll actually trigger 16K to be like okay with having a response that cuts off, and you could type continue and it'll keep going. If you limit it to only 2048, it thinks like, oh, all I have is this one response, and it's not ever going to like cut itself off in the middle, and then you do the continue thing. It's a very temperamental little OP.
Yeah. So we'll put it back to the 6,000 then, and we'll see what happens. And actually, it might be a good thing to get that error to show them how to work around it too. So we'll see what happens with that. So then the prompt, where'd it go? Okay, the prompt is right here. The max length that Elizabeth was just graciously explaining, I appreciate that because that confused me too with the output. We're going to just keep here. Temperature 1.8, top P is 0.6, so it writes a little more like Claude. I'm using 16K. So now that I have my system prompt and my user prompt, what I normally do is I come up here and I save it. Just so that way, if I exit out and I want to come back to it, those stay there. So I'm just going to put, we're going to put prompting.
That is a cool feature. That was not there in the OG days that I was working with Opie.
Oh, it wasn't?
Well, you could kind of save like your presets, but it wasn't as robust as this.
Okay. We just got prompting for story options. And then all I do is I click save. So then when I want to come back for it, I can just click the drop down. It'll automatically have the system and user prompt. Now, the caveat of this is if you have anything written down here, it's going to save that too. So if you want a fresh prompt, you have to go through and delete all the stuff below it so you don't have that already in there. Because it will save everything.
Does it also save your temperature settings, your hyperparameters, or no?
That's a good question. Let's find out. We're going to go here, and then we're going to go back here.
It looks like it does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
oh,
but
well,
as you can see, if I click on this, if there's nothing there, it's fine. If I come down here and there's already something, it's going to actually put everything back in there, so it could be messy. So I would just make sure when I'm starting out. Where is it? I'm trying to find the one I just saved. There it is. So if it's whenever I'm starting out, I just make sure it's blank. And then if I want to save it with other stuff, I'll just save it with under a different name, so I have all my work I've done saved in there. I do this just because sometimes I get lazy and I don't want to save it into Notion right then, so I'll save it in here so I can grab it later. But that's just me being lazy. Okay, so once we do that, we're going to click on submit. And then we're going to wait, and it's going to give us some story stuff. Excuse me.
This is where we need Akello because he'd start reading story idea 1.
In his nice voice.
Pharaoh's Eye. I can't do a good Akello impression. His voice is like butter.
I will read in my nasally tone. How about that? So, story idea 1 is The Curse of the Pharaoh's Eye. The story takes place in a small town. I cannot read that fast. Located near. I can't read that fast. I need Elizabeth.
We'll let it finish.
Yeah. I do not have the Micro Machine voice. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but back in the 90s, there was this guy, Micro Machine voice, and he would talk really fast, so you couldn't really understand him. But he would talk on camera, so you didn't know what he was saying. But
like an auctioneer.
Exactly, it was an auctioneer voice. But unfortunately, I can't do that while I'm reading, so we're gonna have to wait, like, the normal person I am. While we're waiting, though, is there anything in chat?
Yeah, I can. Everyone said yes to Brendan Fraser. That was a few minutes ago. But Death by Diva is sharing that a lot of AI writing is copy and pasting for them. And Akello says that we are too kind. But I mean, I think everybody else, guys, if you haven't seen Akello's channel, it's Future Fiction Factory. It is a good time. He does live writing like this as well with Rexy and other AI tools. Make sure that you go and subscribe over there. And subscribe to the Future Fiction Academy if you aren't already subscribed, of course, because then it'll also update you. And then Death by Diva renewed their Brendan Fraser demands. But so I actually liked Brendan Fraser in, oh gosh, what was the name of the movie where he was in like the bomb shelter and they thought the world ended with Christopher Walken?
Yeah. Oh shoot, what was it?
I'm sure
that wasn't Pleasantville, was it?
No, that was with gorgeous woman, Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. Like half black and white in color.
Yeah, that one I liked. Yeah. I don't remember what the name of the other one is, but
I don't either. I know it was a good. I liked that movie though.
Yeah, it was
Blast from the Past. Death by Diva got it. She is a true Brendan Fraser fan. We salute you, Death by Diva.
Well, you know who she is, but she's just hiding.
Oh, that makes sense now. Oh, she's very chatty.
She's my doppelganger.
Got it. All right. So what story ideas did we get?
All right, so let's see. Story idea 1 is The Curse of the Pharaoh's Eye. And I'm not going to attempt any voices because I have my allergies, but the story takes place in a small town located near an archaeological site in Egypt. Characters are Dr. Amelia Carter, who is a renowned archaeologist who has dedicated her life to uncovering ancient mysteries. Detective James Mitchell, a local detective with a sharp mind and a passion for solving puzzles. Excuse me. Ahmed Hassan, a local guide who possesses extensive knowledge about history and legends. And Professional Charles, a rival archaeologist. Ooh, so we have a rival there too. So that's good. It already gives us a little bit of the drama up at the top just with the characters. So, Dr. Amelia Carter discovers an ancient relic known as Pharaoh's Eye, a mysterious artifact said to possess unimaginable power. As news of the discovery spreads, strange occurrences begin to plague the town. People claim to have seen a mummy wandering the streets at night, and an eerie curse seems to befall anyone who comes into contact.
It literally stole the plot of The Mummy.
It did. Let's see if story idea 2 is a little bit more original. So, story idea 2 is The Lost Amulet. The story is set in a bustling city museum that houses a collection of ancient artifacts, including a recently acquired mummy. If this turns into like the night at the museum, then I'm going to be very disappointed. So it has Sarah Collins. I get Sarah Collins a lot when I'm generating. I don't know if anyone else does, but I cannot escape Sarah Collins.
I get Lily and Jack. And it always makes me think like instead of like a little ditty about Jack and Diane, but it's like a little ditty about Jack and Lily. It's like 2 American kids who live in the AI.
That in Hollowbrook Haven, like for towns. I always get Hollowbrook.
Willow Creek.
Willow Creek as well is another
That
one.
was 2023, y'all.
Okay,
Dr. Jonathan Davis, that's the lead singer of Korn.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe
Well,
so.
he's now an archaeologist. He's doing good. Maybe he plays a little ditty while he's digging to get better luck. So our character Sarah Collins, a young and ambitious curator at the museum, eager to prove herself in the field of archaeology. Dr. Jonathan Davis, a renowned archaeologist and expert in ancient Egyptian history, who is brought in to assist with the museum's new exhibit. Michael Thompson, a mysterious and enigmatic collector who donates the mummy and other artifacts to the museum. And Inspector Emily Parker, a seasoned detective with a keen eye for detail and a passion for solving mysteries. That sounds a lot like the detective from above.
Yeah, a little bit, because I'm sorry, I read it down. Apologies. Mm-hmm. The plot is good. That plot, though, I would probably run it through GPT-4 or Turbo just because I want it to twist it even more. It's got some good bones there. It talks about the museum staff and visitors hearing eerie whispers, so it's almost like mystery horror in a way.
Yeah,
you could flint it that way very easily. When Jonathan Davis is skeptical at first, but then realizes the amulet's missing. They look for the lost amulet, and then it looks like the evildoer is the mystery collector who donated the mummy, but has a dark secret. So maybe this is where, being the senior writing partner, I would be like, oh, maybe Michael's cursed and he's got to find some way to get someone to take the amulet off of his hands, or he's going to be stuck becoming the mummy or something like that. Like I would twist it around, but that does seem that, well, we're not in Cozyville anymore on that.
Yeah, which I kind of like, because I'm not really a cozy type person. I like my horror and thriller and suspense. So
I would say number 2 would be very well versed for twisting it and making it even more kind of like sick, sadistic, and more like you could even go psychological with that and all kinds of interesting things.
I agree. So let's go ahead and grab story idea 2.
There's your Hollow Hill on number 3, which is the haunting. It must know you like horror.
I can't escape
horror.
And I didn't even ask for horror. It just apparently knows me well enough to know I want it to be horror.
No, you know what? I don't think that's it. It's because you asked for mummy, which traditionally speaking, mummy is a monster. Usually when I'm prompting, I always throw cozy in there. So I get silly mummies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is just the recesses of my mind subconsciously grabbing it. I'm gonna go ahead and toss this into here just real quick, so that way I have it. And I'll fix this later, the formatting. So we have that, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep that. So let's actually try what Elizabeth said. Let's go into GPT-4 and ask it to kind of beef it up.
And actually, you don't even have, I was going to say, you can just change it right there to Turbo, which is the 1106 preview.
Yep, so that's what we're going to do right there. We'll still keep it with the 1.8 and 0.6, just because we still want to be creative. We're just going to let it keep the maximum length where it tossed it. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to go down here. We're going to add a message. We're going to say great. And I always put that is amazing. This is for my own peace of mind. If they ever take over, they know I've been very polite to them.
So that's the joke that we all make. But the truth is that when you ask for a rewrite, remember this is like a semantics dictionary slot machine. If you had a boss who was like, "Hey, I need this. This is great. I need a rewrite," that puts you in a prism. Like that puts you through the lens of like, okay, it's already pretty good, and I'm just enhancing it. Versus if you have a boss that says, "Rewrite this," you're going to think that you need to start completely from scratch. And in my experience, anecdotally with the LLM, it's that same way. If you don't say, "Great, I love this so far. Can you add this?" You get a complete rewrite, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Hold on. I didn't want you to like redo it. I wanted you to just add to it. So
That makes sense.
it serves a purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed like just being polite to it because it is programmed to give human responses. So the politeness seems to actually, for me anyway, get me better quality stuff. Like it follows along better. So we're gonna host it. Great, that is amazing. Let's use story. If I could type idea 2, I'm just gonna put that here. And I do this just because it helps me. I use this in Rexy a lot to separate my thoughts and whatnot, and just so that way the LLM knows between this brackets is what I'm talking about. So I do that in the chat as well because it hasn't yelled at me and asked me not to yet. And I put my closing.
It's the Tupperware container, 1000%.
That's what you.
Oh, you had story idea up ahead and then story brief. So
yeah,
story idea, yeah.
That's what I thought. There we go. So story idea, and then we're going to continue the prompt. So I put that's amazing. Let's use story idea 2. Please add more details. I'll put more detailed descriptions.
Yeah, and I usually ask for like more specific plot events, and then I say like how I want the twist. So if you want it more horror, thriller.
Okay. So please add more detailed descriptions such as plot events and add in a suspenseful twist to the story.
And then because I'm always like really skimpy on characters, I've started pushing myself because Steph has influenced me and I love it. I don't ever write my stories usually from the perspective of the character. I'm very a plot driven girl, but I started to really challenge myself to go like add in character motivations and make them like deep and woundy or whatever. And that usually adds another layer of complexity on top of it.
Yeah. See, I do. That's interesting. I do that, but I have a separate prompt I run after this to actually give me full character sheets for each character.
Oh yeah, but this can actually give if you just say also like add some deep character motivations and challenges or whatever. It'll start building those seeds in there, which can marry it better with your character sheets and things.
Awesome. I've never actually tried it. Let's try that, and then we'll also do the character sheets and see how it blends together because I've never actually done it in this part. Deep character motivations and challenges. So let's try this. So all I did was I copied and pasted. Where's my cursor? I copied and pasted the story 2 idea. And I just put at the beginning, at the top, great, that is amazing. Let's use story idea 2. So that way it knows which story idea above we're using. I reiterated what the story idea was just in case. And then I put, please add more detailed descriptions such as plot events and add in a suspenseful twist to the story. Also add deep character motivation and challenges. So we have it again at the ChatGPT 4, 1.8 temperature.
I have a question though. It's not you. So when you do your model, I'm wondering why the maximum length is, because I thought the 1106 is 128K, but maybe not in Playground. It's probably just they probably haven't fixed it.
Yeah, in Playground I've never. I mean, I could come in here and I could do this.
Oh, okay.
But it boots it right back to 4095.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so 4095 has always been. That's one of the limitations of this. So sometimes I'll actually go into ChatGPT itself and run it there. But I want to see how it does in Playground because normally the 4095 is enough for like a basic story idea before I toss it into Rexy. Because then after this point, after I get the character sheets, I normally go into Rexy to do some of the writing itself.
Okay, so I found the answer to this problem.
Oh, good.
I looked it up. So
you cheated.
I did because I was really bothered by it. This is why there's so much confusion around this. They're tweaking how that maximum length operates based on which model you select. Like I know if you hover over maximum length right now, it's going to give you the same explanation or whatever. Yeah. But GPT-4 1106 preview, it says returns a maximum of 4096 output tokens. So
in the other one it's the total, in this one it's the max output, but it doesn't tell you it's different.
They just messed it up. And I've seen this before. They had messed up their Playground when 16K first came out. Your Playground couldn't actually go to the full max context length either. So
This is actually really good. We're showing this for people that are getting started, that are getting frustrated because they're not understanding. This is what we're up against right now because we are at the bleeding edge of this technology. Things are changing, things are evolving. You're going to run into things like this, but you just have to find a workaround. A lot of times it's not you. Like, I didn't even notice that. Thankfully, Elizabeth did. But a lot of times it's not you. A lot of times just because things are changing so fast. So to avoid the frustration, just understand this is right now a work in progress for AI. So changes are going to be made. You're going to have to adapt and modify, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. And as long as you're willing to learn and just find good people to work with, it's not going to be a problem.
And the other thing I always say is like this particular tool, OPI, OpenAI Playground, it was never designed for end users like us. It's designed for programmers to be able to test their prompts. They never thought that people would actually use it a whole bunch like we do. So we're kind of happy
through a workout.
Yeah, we're like, we know you intended this for other people, but it's ours now. All your base belong to us.
Yeah, and the thing is, the reason I like this is because the system prompt's right there for me to modify and change. Whereas in the chats, I don't have it right there, and so for me, I just like the level of control here. Because in the chats, I can't go and change the temperature maximum length either, in like ChatGPT. So I like the control of this like a lot more, even though it's not what it's made for. I just try to make it work. But that's another reason Rexy is such an important tool for me because I can control all that and still have like the output that I want because Rexy
and
is built
the system and the save and all that. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
And that's why Rexy is like this because I mean, OpenAI Playground, good old OPI, that's where I cut my teeth at the very beginning, like where I could actually control things. All right, I'm dying to know what it does.
All right, so let's see what it does. Let's click on submit. I'm going to cough again, sorry. Okay, expanding on story idea 2. So it's actually giving me a little bit of a, oh, it's giving me the apps. That's interesting. So it's giving me a detailed description and plot event. So Act 1, the City Museum is abuzz with the arrival of a new exhibit, including a 3,000-year-old mummy donated by the enigmatic Michael Thompson. Sarah Collins, eager to make her mark, organizes a grand unveiling. However, during the event, strange occurrences unsettle the guests. A cold draft fills the room, lights flicker, and inexplicable shadow passes over the walls. This feels like The Relic a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie The Relic?
I think so, because that was like a dinosaur, wasn't it? Like it was like a lizard monster, if I remember.
It was something. It was a gecko or something had been shipped with it and ate these magical leaves, and it turned it into a monster.
I just remember, gosh, I remember like the museum scene or whatever, and then things went black and stuff. But
yeah,
but it's also kind of like a trope too. The grand unveiling and things start going wrong. What I would probably do to twist it is maybe bring in some scenes in the introduction of it before the grand opening. Mm-hmm. So you still kind of start in media res in a way where maybe there's like the delivery of the mummy and there's, you know, the grand opening is tomorrow night. So, you know, took him long enough or whatever. Yeah, because it had to clear customs or whatever jazz you want to put in there. And then have the people who are actually like arriving it have bad things happen to them as dramatic irony, where the audience knows something bad happens to them, but the characters inside, like Sarah Collins and Dr. Jonathan or whatever, they don't know that the workers or something were injured.
I like that. If we wanted to do some foreshadowing for that too, at the beginning we could actually show the mummy being collected by this archaeologist and kind of see some bad things happening as it's being loaded. So you kind of get he knows this is going on, but he still delivers. So you're kind of wondering about him. You're not sure if he's good, if he's evil, what his plans are. So that might be really good too.
Or as he picks it up, you know, and they're like, you know, thanks for donating it to the museum. And as it's going around and he's like gripping his cane, he's like, no, thank you, you know.
Exactly. Something for because I love foreshadowing. The foreshadowing, I like drawing people in with that. So that would be really good too. Maybe a combination of the two. That would be perfect. Okay, so let's go look at a little bit of this. Okay, so Sarah's approached by Dr. Jonathan Davis, who points out discrepancies between the mummy's case and historical records. He suggests that an amulet, the Heart of Osiris, is believed to protect the dead in their journey to afterlife, is missing. That's an interesting touch. That night, Sarah experiences a vivid dream. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing there, where she hears the whispers of an ancient Egyptian priest warning her about the awakened spirit. Although I think to me that's a little bit too much foreshadowing. I wouldn't want it to immediately tell her, "Wait, hey, this is what it is," because that's just too much too fast.
And I'm not buying a woman who works at a museum is going to like, oh, I had a dream about it, so now I believe it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if that characterization works, ChatGPT.
Yeah. So I would probably take that out because it's just a little too wonky for me. Like it's a little bit too, hey, look at all this, too much explaining at the front end.
Agreed, rejected. It was a good idea, junior writing partner, but sorry. And I love working with this thing because if you've ever co-written with someone, which I have failed miserably at multiple times, this thing has no ego. You can just be like, nope, delete. Yeah. And it's it doesn't get upset or feelings hurt. I'm
I'm
gonna
going
check
to give it
that
the
real quick.
benefit of the doubt that some of this below it might be good. So I'm just literally going to delete that one.
I'm sorry.
And I said I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. So I'm just going to delete that one instead of rerunning it. Because sometimes I'll rerun it if it's all bad. But we're going to
Oh
just check
yeah,
out.
no.
Yeah.
I would usually like put a note there for myself of like, edit this and change it.
Actually, that's smart in case I want it later.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. Let's
because
do that.
you do need something there, but
Yeah.
it may not be that particular scene.
And all I'm typing here is I just put a note, edit this and change it. There's too much foreshadowing and it's unrealistic. So that way I'll know why I want to rewrite it to when I come back to it. Because I might come back to it a day later or something. I might forget why I wanted to take it out.
Absolutely. That's a great habit to get into when you're validating AI content. If you just go ahead and make a note, when I put something in Notion, sometimes I'll comment it out or and everything like that. Because when you come back to it, you have to kind of remember where you were. Otherwise, you have to reread it all over again, and that might it just takes more time.
Exactly. Especially if you're like 10 chapters in and you're trying to tweak something in chapter 1 to make it flow better in chapter 10. Just knowing what's there and why you wanted to tweak it is really huge. It saves a lot of time. Okay. So then for Act 2, the curse unfolds. As Sarah and Dr. Davis delve into research, the museum is plagued by accidents and increasingly violent supernatural occurrences. Staff members fall ill, and ancient scripts appear on the wall warning of dire consequences. That's interesting.
We need to hire new painters.
It's like someone wrote it in like the invisible ink so it appears later on.
Now I like this idea, and as soon as they do Inspector Emily Parker, now I want to add like this whole subplot where the museum is in dire straits financially, and so the police and stuff think that this is all a ruse to get insurance money or something like that. Like this is where I'm the senior writing partner, and I want to bring in more conflict.
I like that actually. So put a note here. Add in details.
And then once I know that, then I go back to the beginning and I weave that in where, if we're doing that intro scene where they're getting ready for the grand reveal or whatever, then you have to have some, board of the museum, pressing down on Sarah and being like a bad boss to Sarah and being like, this better work or the museum's finished.
That makes sense. Okay. So I just put a note in there.
Right now.
I'm sorry?
We don't have anything in chat right now. I just checked.
Okay, so I just put a note in here to add in details about the museum being on the verge of closure due to budgetary issues. The police assume this is motive for the issues.
Yeah.
Because I really like that. So I'm going to put a note there because I know I want to go through and I kind of want to edit and tweak all of this and put notes in there before I actually do any modifying. Because I don't want to do my modifying in here. I'm going to toss it into Notion to do that. But having the notes here right now, especially for someone like me that has the memory loss, is very huge because 10 minutes from now, I might not remember what I wanted to add in there, but that note will kind of trigger it for me.
And the true thing is if you add those notes in there, that's what I love about Playground, because in chat, you can't edit the chat response like this. You can't. Yeah. But in Playground, you can. Thank you, Opie. But now you can actually copy and paste that, and that actually becomes a prompt where you can say, read this, and any instructions in the commas, just go ahead and perform that action. And the AI is like, okay.
And the great thing about this, too, one thing I love, I could go in here, and I could put story idea for Mummy Mystery. And so now, if I forget to copy and paste or something, I can always come back in here and click on this, and I have it right here as well. This is my backup. Because if, God forbid, anything happened to my Notion or something like that, I have backups in other places that I could go to, so I'm not out all of that work.
Ooh, this character motivations is chef's kiss.
Nice. Let's check that out. Let me cough first. So yeah, because of time constraints, I don't want to read every act in detail. Yeah. So we have kind of a general idea. So let's jump into character motivations. So the deep character motivations and challenges. Now this is stuff it added because I asked it to go more in depth with the characters. So this wasn't originally in there. This is new stuff it's giving us. So Sarah Collins is driven by a deep-seated need to prove herself in a field dominated by her more experienced peers. She faces the challenge of overcoming her own skepticism and the museum's bureaucratic resistance to her unconventional methods. Dr. Jonathan, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and so what I love about that is that gives me that seed, and then I'm like, okay, so now what does that look like in real life? Oh, maybe her doctoral thesis was rejected for like not sham research or whatever. Like, so she's got to go up against the I would raise those stakes, those personal stakes for that character. So like she just experienced bad failure or something, and or along those lines, or maybe she came into the field from something else that she did before or something, and she's insecure about that.
I think a good thing to add in there, like if we want to show like just how negative the leadership of the museum is, maybe she's going up for funding for a project, and she did this long proposal, spent months on it, getting it prepared, and it was denied because someone with more experience than her gave just like a random idea, and they got it because they have more experience and because they have a better like rapport with the actual leader in charge of the museum or something like that, to kind of show that little negativity that she's facing, just because
Oh, absolutely.
even though her stuff is amazing, she's still new, so she's not really seen as an authority on it, so she's kind of overlooked. So I think that would be pretty good too.
I do too. I agree.
Okay, so then we're gonna go right here.
And then Jonathan Davis, I like this. It added in where he made a past mistake where he debunked what turned out to be a genuine historical find.
Oh, nice.
So he has been a bad boy. But I think it would be twisted the other way around. Because I don't know how you could prove. I mean, I guess maybe with carbon dating, you could prove something was a genuine historical find. Maybe that's what it is. He maybe, so kind of like, have you ever heard the story about how they found Richard III underneath the car park? Okay, so the body of the king was found, like people thought that he might be where the battle and everything was, and it might be under a parking garage. And they made a whole movie about this thing, and it's really cool. But the researchers, because there's like a Richard III Society, when they presented their findings to like the academics or whatever, they were like, no, you're an amateur. It's not right. And then it came to be true. And now it's kind of like you've got egg on your face because you were like, nope, I don't know where that battle really happened.
And that unfortunately that happens so much.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a trope. I mean, that's a real life thing that happens a lot. So that really kind of connects the reader with this as well, because they might have experienced something similar. So now they have this connection with the character that they wouldn't have had without that extra details that we're adding in. So for Sarah Collins, I just added in how she's overlooked based on the book's experience. Now for Jonathan Davis, like we were saying, he's initially a skeptic, is motivated by his intellectual curiosity and a personal quest for truth, stemming from a past mistake where he debunked what turned out to be a genuine historic find. His challenge is to reconcile his scientific approach with the unfolding supernatural events.
So he's still on the struggle bus about,
he's kind of locked in the past.
Yeah, being open-minded about what could happen. Or maybe he's trying to be open-minded, but he's like, this doesn't have any scientific explanation.
He also could be too open-minded where he's just accepting anything. So maybe another mistake is he says something is actually from a certain era just because he's so open to the idea of it being that. And that's wrong because he didn't actually take the time to debunk a lot of stuff because he didn't want to miss out on something, another find.
Yeah, and like I said, this is why I've started pushing myself to add these to these prompts, because it starts me thinking about the characters earlier on in my process, which I normally didn't do. And then that in turn informs the plot more, so that I'm actually kind of like working with these two things at the same time.
Yeah. Dated. There we go. I was trying to find the word dated.
We have a little bit, roughly around 10 minutes left of this session.
Okay, we could get through the characters, and then we'll see if we get on to the next step. If not, I'm going to be here tomorrow, so you guys should come join to see the continuation. You guys make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so that way you can find us easier, too. There's a lot of good stuff on Future Fiction Academy. Okay, so for Michael Thompson, I'm going to cough again, excuse me. He's driven by a combination of greed and a thirst for power, as well as a deep-rooted belief in the occult passed down through his family. His challenge is the realization that some forces cannot be controlled and must be respected. That's interesting.
I don't think he's villainy enough.
Yeah, I don't think so. Thirst for power.
Well, I mean, it depends on if you want the twist of where he was trying to be relieved of the curse, and so he's trying to pass it off to someone else, or if you want to decide like he's using the curse to try to take over the world. I mean, those are kind of like your big options for villains.
Yeah, I really like him being just like an all-out villain, trying to. She's putting this in there to try to destroy the museum and try to take over the world. Maybe this mummy, the more souls he absorbs, the more powerful he becomes, and because this guy's controlling the mummy, that power is transferred to him.
Oh, well, then you could also like, okay, so then that maybe sparks like, this thing has been on display before. That's why. So they're celebrating like 100 years. And so secretly Michael Thompson's immortal because he keeps living off of the souls that the mummy keeps eating or whatever. And basically this thing just kind of keeps going on display at this museum every 100 years.
Yeah. And if they had done like the past research, like maybe if Dr. Jonathan Davis if Jonathan Davis wasn't so rich, just accept it like no questions because he wants to prove he can do this job. maybe if he had done his research, he would have said 100 years ago something very similar happened with someone who looked very similar to Michael Thompson, and that would kind of be like, well, if you'd done your due diligence, this wouldn't have happened, type thing. So I like the
Yeah,
whole circle of that.
that could be a lot of fun. He was Edward Thompson back then, and
Yeah,
trying to
there
be
you go.
like, that's my great grandfather. That's my grandfather.
We
No.
just look very similar. It's like the Nicolas Cage picture. When you look at the one from the Wild West, looks exactly like him. Okay, so his ultimate goal is to retain his
Live forever.
immortality and power by allowing the mummy to feed on souls. Every 100 years, he releases it on a group of people to replenish its power. There we go. I like that, actually.
Yeah, and the idea of immortality really aligns well with the whole mummy theme. Like,
Exactly. Because who better to give immortality than a mummy who is based on the I was gonna say
Belief that
historic the belief. So I think that's actually really good because that really ties it in well with the mummy. Okay,
right, Emily
so
Parker.
last, Emily Parker, motivated by a commitment to justice and order, must navigate the blurry lines between the logical and the paranormal. Her challenge is to adapt her investigative techniques to a case that defies conventional logic. So she's like a very by the books, like this is what it is and this is why. So she actually has to come to terms first with the fact these things that can't be explained before she can even start to solve the case.
Yeah, and I would probably say like she's probably like thinks that this case is beneath her.
Mhm.
Like
Definitely.
these are just some pranks being played by some teenagers or something, and then she finds the insurance angle,
Yeah.
and then she can't get her superiors to agree with her how serious it is. It's
Exactly. I like that.
like, not until somebody dies.
So she sees what it's like to not be believed.
Yeah.
Okay, so she assumes the case is being set up by the museum due to budgetary issues. She does not take the case seriously. I'm going to say until she witnesses something herself. So something supernatural
Yeah, so
happens
it's
to her
not
at
at
the museum.
first. At first, when she's first called in, she just thinks it's like pranks.
Yeah. So she does not take the case seriously until she witnesses supernatural occurrences. I cannot spell today.
Yeah.
At
And
the
then I
museum.
would always flip those sentences to if you were like going to send this as a prompt to the AI because it doesn't understand temporal stuff out of order very well. Meaning, like, if the logical thought pattern is when she first gets the case, she doesn't think very highly of it. She thinks it's just teenage pranks. Her opinion doesn't change until she realizes that the museum's in dire straits and this might be insurance. If it's put in that format, then the LLM can kind of follow the timeline a little bit better, but it's still really not great. But when you put them out of order, that's when you get people stealing fountains 3 times in a row.
Not that we've ever seen that before. Okay, so then I would put that she does not take the case seriously. And I'm just going to copy and paste because I am lazy like that.
I don't think it's lazy. Who wants to retype it?
That's true. And then
Work
I know
smarter,
there was
not
a.
harder.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually a really good tip to remember is just keep it in order so you don't confuse the AI.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
You also don't confuse yourself, which is also a added bonus.
Yeah. A lot of times I just do train of thought, and I do that just so I don't forget it, and then later on I'll edit it. But I've never really thought about the actual. It doesn't think the way I do. I think backwards sometimes. Okay. So that's actually really good. So each character's journey intertwines with the others, leading to personal growth. So we're going to delete this because I don't like the wrap up it gives us because sometimes it just confuses it and it wants to end the story on a happy note too early, stuff like that.
Oh, wait, could you put that back in for just a second?
Yeah, of course.
I would say I would take out the deeper understanding of the past and like the second part, but I like the fact that each character journey intertwines with the others. That is a good tip for when you're doing multi-plot lines. So then you'll start to get scenes from, you know what I mean? So then it'll be like a scene where Inspector Emily Parker is talking to like the museum director or whatever, and she sees the document about the bills or something like that, and then that happens at her precinct or whatever when she gets back, and her boss is just like, fix this or else, you know, I just heard from the mayor and this museum has to stay open. So like you could really build some really conflicting needs inside of the characterization.
Okay, I didn't think about that. That's an excellent idea. So that'll just kind of push it towards showing these interwoven things instead of just everything separate. And
Exactly.
okay,
It'll start.
that makes sense.
It'll help the LLM possibly to build something where these different paths are crossing over.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna save this real quick.
Hmm.
And I'm a paranoid type. I do iteration, so I'm constantly saving just in case.
Well, we can't really move on to the next one because you didn't fully validate all the acts, but I think we're
Yeah,
okay. We only have 5 minutes left, so
yeah,
I'm gonna. If you're okay, I'm gonna move the thing so they can see us again.
yep. And I'm gonna validate tonight, and then we'll have it ready to go tomorrow.
Okay, so there's the two of us. We're on camera now. Hi, everyone.
No,
We were there the whole time. We promise.
it'd be really weird if we weren't, and we were able to control this.
Yeah. So, what are the next steps for you? You're going. Oh, I'm sorry. You're taking a cup of tea.
You're good. I just don't want to cough so much.
Yeah,
So
you're
next
okay.
steps, I would go through and I would validate the acts. I would make sure to put in more details for me, like things I want to add, because while what the AI did is great, what the AI generates, it can very easily generate for someone else. So I want to put some of me, some of what I want, some of my
Yes.
style into this to make sure when it's written, it is my story and it's not just something the AI spit out that 5 other people can get the same results, because the AI just randomly generates words. And because of that, that means someone else could get something similar. Obviously, the odds of them getting the exact same thing are astronomical, but there might be too many things that are close, and it doesn't feel like mine until I actually put myself into it. So that would be the first step after this, is to go through, change some of the acts, add some more information, which is why the notes are in there, and just make sure there's nothing else I want to add into the story for this part. Because as long as you have this part really solid, what you do next is going to piggyback off of that and be really good. Not to be crude, but I mean the saying "crap in, crap out." Like,
Yeah,
you
it
want to
is.
make sure it's really good when you put it in there, so you get the results you want. Otherwise, in the long run, you're going to have a rough draft of something. You're going to spend 5 years editing it because you didn't fix it at the start. When taking an hour to fix it now is going to save you multiple hours at the end. So that would be my next step.
Yeah, there's a long-standing tradition actually in fiction writing of making what's like a treatment or a narrative summary or something like a 4-page synopsis of the story. And that's in like TradPub, a lot of times that's what people actually submit to their agent or submit to their editor. Not editor as in like somebody who's editing the words, but like acquisitions editor. So your editor that you work with at the company. Um, and they're basically going through it and they're like, no, this or this is trope, this is old, this needs to be beefed up. Because when you need multiple people to kind of like have influence on the story, it's easier to work with it when it's only like 4 pages long, and that's for like a novel, than when it's 400 pages long and you're making big changes. Because in most in traditional publishing and stuff like that, before a book is ever even really done and gets a contract, there are people who are already having to figure out like, how are we going to market this book, how are we going to sell this book, who is the audience for this book. And the more I think that indies can get behind those kinds of exercises, especially if you pants, I hear from so many people who pants that working with AI gives them the opportunity to kind of iterate and be like, well, what about this and what about that. That becomes more difficult for them because they have to work in a certain way that the story just kind of reveals it to himself as they go. It kind of simulates that, but still gives them a little bit more control that us plotters have.
That makes sense, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm kind of a little bit in between. I like plotting to a certain point, but sometimes I just want to write and see where the characters take me, because a lot of times where the characters take me is something I didn't think of because I'm just getting in the mindset of the creativity of it. So I kind of like to mesh the two myself.
Yeah, I have characters that misbehave all the time. There's a question in the chat of like, when will you be using Rexy? I don't know that we're using Rexy in this series right now for today and tomorrow, because Michelle's purposely focusing on beginner AI writing, and all of us, before we ever used Rexy, we start off in OpenAI Playground.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, it's okay. I'm going to say, our beginner labs basically walk you through OpenAI Playground and ChatGPT, because the methodologies that you learn there, temperature, how to construct your prompts and everything like that, you have to master those skills before you move into something like Rexy. Because if you're trying to learn Rexy and also those skills, you're going to get very frustrated very quickly. But if you have those skills going into Rexy, Rexy is like the all-powerful dinosaur that just like gets you swaths of words. As a matter of fact, last night, Rexy got unlimited banging, which was what we call sequencing prompts. I know. So what Michelle is doing right now manually, as you learn those processes and you get kind of adept at like what your specific methodology is, you can create an entire sequence inside of Rexy that just automatically does that. And so that you're getting at the end this really robust product for you to evaluate. So you're almost playing like acquisitions editor to the AI.
And imagine once the fine tuning is mixed in with that, how amazing that's going to be. Fine tuning and unlimited blackjacks is going to be huge.
So I showed someone the writing from Steph Pajonas's Fine Tune, which I'm showing tomorrow in the Fine Tune class, which
Oh,
is at
nice.
10 a.m.
Mhm.
And I was like, here, look at this. Tell me which AI model wrote it. And they were like guessing, I showed it and I was like, do you think a human or an AI wrote this? And they thought a human wrote it because
Nice.
Steph's Fine Tune actually got the AI to write a line of dialogue without attributing it at all as the opening line in a scene. It doesn't have a dialogue tag and it doesn't have an action tag. So it doesn't say, so it's a line of text that's like, it's so the real human writing to me compared to AI, it has a little bit of mystery to it. And what I mean by that is a human will write dialogue that's like, it's almost like non sequitur. It's almost like if I was talking to Michelle, for example, and out of the blue, I was just like, how's he doing? You know, I'm talking about your dog right away because I'm like, how's he doing? So if I start the scene off and I'm like, how's he doing? And you're writing back, oh, it was a rough night. We didn't get back till 4 a.m. And then I say in my next line, like, did the vet offer anything? Now you're sending the signal to the reader that you're talking about a dog or something like that. And there's nobody wants writing that is so on the nose that it's like, how is your dog? Elizabeth said. Very concerned.
It's like, well, you got home at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, didn't you?
Yes. And that's what the AI often starts off with, especially when the Fine Tune was on 16K. We got 3.5 16K, Steph did, to write a line of dialogue that attributed it to no one. And it's actually a good line of dialogue. And we're like,
that is awesome.
Holy crap. So.
Yeah. And this is just like a hint of what the amazing stuff we're doing at FFA is. There are so many intelligent people. Even if you're not like super savvy in AI, you don't have to be, because you can work with these people, go to the labs, and learn it from people that are actually making it work themselves.
Yeah, and if something is outside of your ability or whatever, we just work together and help. I'm really good at starting stuff. I'm not so good at maintaining them. So, but the whole crew and the whole group really helps supports that. I was really thankful because last night Susan went ahead and made a whole blackjack platform for 30 bangs.
It's already in my Notion, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a Notion template. So that's actually what I'm going to go work on right now. So
awesome.
Yep. So,
and that's one of the things. I mean, we share. She made this amazing template and shared it with FFA for everyone else to use, because at the FFA, like, our motto, our unofficial motto is we want to be there to help other authors succeed. When other authors succeed, we succeed, because we're all working together in this new frontier of AI. And the only way to keep up with the big corporations who are going to be doing this is to work together to get to that level, so we can compete at the level they are with the speed they're doing, because they have the resources.
Early last year, I was privileged enough to see some of the queries that came in, and pretty much every big IP holder, they want one click and get stuff from their story world and everything like that. So that's what's being worked on behind the scenes. And I went to different events for different business groups, and if you listen to what they were saying and what they weren't saying, like I listened to a machine learning engineer who's on the staff at Penguin Random House, and it's like, why would Penguin Random House need a machine learning engineer on staff? And what was funny is that conversation, the literary agent, because this person admitted that they were using ChatGPT for marketing and materials for reader groups. And the literary agent goes, but you don't ever feed the whole book into it. And the woman who was talking about this was like, no, of course not. And I'm like, oh, girl, do not play poker.
Bad poker face. No Texas Hold'em for you.
No Texas Hold'em for you. So basically, they were willing to admit that they were using a software or a LLM called Bloom, which is on Hugging Chat for translations, and that they were using ChatGPT for marketing purposes. And I'm going, okay, if anyone thinks that they're not using these things to generate words, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you, because obviously they know about the technology, so they're doing it. And then a few months later, after that, Netflix was offering like $1 million, $900,000 to a head of AI. What would Netflix need for generative AI?
I could, wonder.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. With as fast as the technology is growing, we know that corporations are going to be using this to do it themselves. But if we can do it better and just as efficiently, we're going to guarantee we can still put stuff out there and still, have a career in writing. If we fall behind, it's going to be that much more difficult to actually be successful as a writer, because we we can't compete with them by ourselves. They are a huge corporation of hundreds of thousands of people. By doing it
Maybe
by
not hundreds of thousands of people, but usually corporations have, you know, hundreds of
Netflix, like
people
a
in thousands of
Netflix, I'm
people.
talking about, or a Disney, because Disney is doing the same thing. Let's be honest here. I mean, all the big corporations are going to start doing this or are already doing this.
Yeah, and I think that it's important too because it reminds me a lot of the indie revolution. I was lucky enough to be there. Like, I first published in 2011. So I was lucky enough to be there in the early days, 2009, 2010, where people were in online communities and talking about publishing. Just getting out information about publishing is really difficult because it's not like you can just go to some university really and like, I'm going to major in publishing. Like, they keep this information like behind lock and key, which led to a lot of nepotism and a lot of like inbreeding almost with who gets publishing contracts for a very long time. You had to know someone to know someone. But I think that with AI, individual creators are going to be more nimble and closer to the reader to actually supply. And a lot of people think that, well, AI readers are just going to be like, I want this, and they'll just get it. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. And here's why. We don't even pick our own Netflix movies. Like, I remember the early days of Netflix and you had to type it in what you wanted to watch. Now we're all like, okay, Netflix, what are you offering me today? Okay, I'll take
recommended, yeah.
Yeah. We're like, what are you recommending? Because I'm here just for the recommendation.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point as far as like the individual writers. But in order to compete, they do have to know how to use AI because eventually you're going to be cycled out if you don't.
Yeah, and we have the imagination. So on that note, thank you, Michelle. You'll be on your own tomorrow because I'll be teaching in lab at 10 a.m., but you'll be here at 10 a.m. Eastern.
I will.
Rocking it out. And I'm curious to see what happens with the mummy in the museum.
I know. I'm actually kind of digging this story. I'm like, well, and my big fail is every time I do a short story, I get so much information, I end up planning a novella or a novel with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you're in a short story world, but I think part of the problem was the prompt wasn't about short story. I think if you want it to be a short story, you're going to have to truncate it. You could have all this information, but you're basically going to have to like reveal it very quickly, and you only get like 4 or 5 scenes. So it's going to be like arrival of the mummy, the grand opening, the supernatural stuff happening, the inspector coming the next day, and then like a really quick resolution that's like a twist in the tale.
Yeah. So either this becomes an experiment of prompting to truncate this to a short story, or it becomes a novella. It might be fun to see if the AI can truncate it enough to actually make a short story out of it, though. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm the worst person to ask yesterday. I was like, we're playing a novella, and by the end, I was like, okay, this is a novel now.
Okay, well, with that said, now with the challenge, I'm going to try to get the AI to truncate this tomorrow to make it into a short story.
So anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you guys all tomorrow. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are here at 10 a.m. And then on Thursdays, we are here at noon. That's me. And then Friday kind of rotates all around because that's the day I try to make sure that I get to all the different time zones within a month as much as I can. So I know that this week on Friday, am I at noon? I think I'm at noon.
I think I'm
at noon on Friday. Yeah, this week I'm at noon on Friday. Next week it's like 7 o'clock Eastern. And then the 19th is 8 a.m. So, but that's because I love y'all in Australia. Okay, that's why.
The 7 Eastern is going to be 7 p.m., right?
Yes, the 7 Eastern is 7 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I'm not getting up at 7 in the morning.
I mean, you're getting up at 8.
Never, but no, my happy butt will probably be here at 4 o'clock in the morning at some point, just so that we're making sure that we're getting these lives out to everybody in different time zones. Because we already have people who are like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm watching you and I feel so bad. Yeah. So we try to.
I wish you luck on this 4 a.m. ones. My butt's gonna be sleeping.
Yeah. Oh, and also today at 2 p.m. Eastern. So in just a few hours, in 3 hours, Steph Pajonas is teaching one of our new intro classes. So if you are thinking about joining the Future Fiction Academy, we have an intro lab for you this afternoon, which is always great even for those who are experienced, because as we were just learning new things about, I learned something new about OPI, the OpenAI Playground, where months ago you couldn't really save your stuff like that. It could save a little bit, but it wouldn't save the whole thing. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing that.
Of course.
You basically have to do continuing education. Even if you think you know everything, you have to go back to the beginning just so that you can catch the stuff that newly develops.
Yeah. And that's why, again, like and subscribe this channel so you can keep up with everything that's going on. But also, please, if you haven't yet, join the FFA. I mean, it's really huge. And for what you're getting for it, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold, in my opinion. So,
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. Anyway, take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.